Stephen Quant, catbehaviorhelp.com, is back. We need some help, Stephen. I've discussed this on the show over the years with other experts, but you will have your own Stephen Q take on it, which is unexplained aggression. Not explained, he could explain it to you, your cat could, if he had words, but we can't explain it. That's the issue, isn't it? It would have an explanation if only we knew how to untangle the mystery.
Exactly. And thank you once again, Tracy, for having me back. Such a pleasure as always. One of the most vexing, disturbing, emotionally affecting issues with cats are what we typically describe as unexplained aggression toward of an otherwise friendly cat
Yes, yes.
towards a family member. And we're not talking about cats who are just fractious and barely socialized and may have other issues going on. These are friendly cats
Yep.
who may have spent years in your home and
Right.
then appear to snap. And they fall into several categories. I've worked with a lot of cats and a lot of clients, both privately and publicly with the animal care centers of New York City, where I also work. And besides being emotionally very disturbing to people, this is the bond with their cat that's deep and is appears broken or at risk of being broken. And so the categories that these typically fall into are, excuse me, cats where there is actually a pretty clear explanation. There's a trigger, and we know what that trigger is. It could be a sound, it could be motion, it could be a scent. I've seen cats who triggered when someone was scraping the litter box.
No.
And yeah, and that's also has happened when people are compacting paper or plastic bags. And my personal theory for some cats is that these sounds are evocative of hissing. It's a higher frequency
Oh my.
sort
Wow.
of sound, and they trigger on that. Other cats, there could be other sounds, there could be motion. Motion can be very triggering for cats. But then we have and scent. I've had people who've come into their home, they were cat sitting, they came in smelling of other cats.
Right.
And these, when we can explain these behaviors, we can work on mitigating them, on
Sure.
control workarounds, right? But when there appears to be no trigger and you go into an investigation and you talk to the people and you push and query them and go through all the potential triggers and you pay very close attention to what was happening right at the time that the cat got upset. As an example, a guy came home to his cat late at night in the dark and was moving through the dark apartment, and the cat was scared.
Yep.
It
Yep.
was, there's shadows and it could have been a threat. But when you can't find that trigger, that's when it becomes rather desperate. And there definitely is a trigger. It might be internal, the cat's mind. They perceive a trigger even if we don't see it or we
Right.
can't perceive it. Maybe they hear something we can't hear. Their hearing obviously is much better than ours, involves frequencies that are outside of our range, but there could be something else going on. I know of one cat who became aggressive with the scent of blood. That would include a raw
Wow.
steak. Now
Wow.
fasten your seatbelt. You think our last episode required censoring. Not only did this cat become reactive when if you had a raw steak on the kitchen counter, but the cat also became aggressive once a month when the woman,
Was menstruating.
yes.
That's so interesting because this is reminding me, I think, that in zoos where they have big cats, lions and tigers, I have no idea if what I'm telling you is true, but it's triggering in me a memory that if there were women handlers at the zoo and they had their period, they should not be around the big cats. And it may have been
Oh,
other wild animals too, but I had forgotten all about that idea, but that they're very aware of it. The
that's
animals
very
are.
interesting. Yeah, I hope they get paid time off.
Or they just have to go work with the elephants that week or something.
But this is all with this sort of behavior, it's very upsetting to people. I had a client recently whose cat acted this way towards her and she became fearful of her cat, even though the behavior seemed to have been of limited duration, and ultimately had to surrender her cat
No
because
kidding.
she could not, in all honesty, be in the same room with this cat without being in fear, in terror.
Isn't that
And
something?
it's heartbreaking. And so when these sorts of cases come up, we have to be very sensitive to the people involved and pay very close attention to the cat and take everything down very carefully, very gently. Sometimes behavior medication, again, may be something that is helpful and a vet could get involved in that. But the risk of surrender in these sorts of cases is high. And as I've told clients, in my experience, you can go from not being prepared to surrendering without any notice, without any warning. You can just go, you can just hit a point where that's it, and you have to surrender the cat, and it comes without warning. I once had a client who was talking to me on Zoom. It was our first conversation, and all of a sudden, she heard a scream, and she said, "My God, my daughter is being attacked," and she got up and ran away.
Oh my
I have
God.
never and I had cautioned her that these things can happen without notice and without warning, and it happened literally during the consultation. And she came back 10 minutes later, and the child was okay, and the husband intervened, and they dealt with it. But these are serious cases that require immediate
Yeah.
intervention. There's one email. If someone emails me on a Sunday, I typically wait till Monday, right?
Understandably, you try to have a work-life balance.
Yes, thank you. But there's one email I always answer on a Sunday. And that's when someone writes me and says, "My cat just attacked me and I'm scared."
So it's a
And
Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. We're talking about cats who are just lovely and then they seem possessed. So it's like The Exorcist or The Omen or something. It harkens back to all those scary movies where all of a sudden the eyes turn red and glowing and you're in danger.
for sure. And the cat looks that way. Their eyes get big, they
Yes.
arch, their fur goes up. And then a lot of them recover almost immediately. This is the other thing that's some take hours, some take days, and some they're just bloop, it's over and I'm okay. There is a condition that a small number of cats have that can be connected to this called feline hyperesthesia syndrome. Typically, cats with this condition mutilate or bite the base of their tail. It's also called the rippling skin disease, and their skin often quivers
Oh
and ripples a
my.
lot. And it's not a well understood illness or syndrome. Some people consider it like a seizure disorder. They can go into a trance-like state and chase around the home, running around like crazy and upset. And sometimes they might attack a person or another animal in the home. So if the cat has been mutilating or biting the base of its tail and or has rippling skin, get thee to a vet
Yeah.
immediately. And in fact, in any case, if a cat attacks you out of the blue without warning, you should always seek out a
That's
veterinary
right,
opinion.
medical, because it could be something medical. That cat may
Oh,
be feeling electric vibrations inside his or her own self, like some form of a seizure, some brain activity that's freaking them out. It's not external, it's internal.
it could be as simple as the cat may be in pain.
Yes, they've
And
moved and now they're freaking out because it hurts so much when they move their
yep,
shoulder.
we see cats who act oddly and poorly, essentially, when they're in pain all the time. One of the things that's interesting with cats, and speaks to this issue, but also other kind of complicating behavior challenges in the home, is that in nature, first of all, in nature, I say this to clients all the time,
Right.
when cats live outside, they don't have behavior problems. They just live and they have lots of space
Yeah.
and
And
the
nobody's
ability,
watching either, Stephen.
no one's,
I
but we
mean,
do.
really, they might, but the thing is, it's like neurosis. If you're poor and struggling, you don't have time to be neurotic. You need to have the time to be like that. And someone has to be watching and noting it and telling you, you should see a shrink, or why don't you take a Xanax? Whereas the cat in the wild is, I just got to survive another day and find a mouse.
The behavior problem is he needs to find food and
Yeah.
shelter and a
Yeah.
mate.
Yeah.
And they focus on these things. And we've discovered that when we bring cats inside, some cats, when we compress the territory, we squeeze the cat essentially. We take away all of that enrichment that comes with space and verticality and the butterflies and the fields. And the cat feels stress and they release that stress in a different direction. That might mean aggression towards a person or another animal. It could mean urinating or spray marking, right? We've
Yep.
touched on that
Yep.
before. It could be any number of things. So it's important to recognize that. I have seen cats at animal care centers who were not able to be handled, basically, who went to a sanctuary near where I live. And I visited those cats. And within 24 to 48 hours of getting into that indoor outdoor sanctuary, they were well behaved, friendly cats.
Wow. So cat sanctuaries serve a purpose for these kinds of cats. They simply are not appropriate to live in a home of any size with any amount of people or other animals. It just doesn't work for them. They need to be in an unstructured, looser environment.
Some cats, that is probably true. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who has a cat sanctuary.
Yes,
Because without
absolutely.
them, it's just full on euthanasia. You don't have a choice. If no one can handle a cat without leather gloves and a face mask,
There are
that's
only
not
so
going to,
many only so many farms available.
that's right.
There is an organization in New York City called Hard Hat Cats that places working
Oh,
cats into working environments in a very professional. Sheila Massey is the director of that
I'll be
organization.
darned.
You should have her on
I
your
should have
show.
her on the show. You'll introduce
Um,
me to her.
she
That's
she
so
does
cool.
a measured introduction where the cat has a crate and a cattery, is gently introduced into the environment. The cats are typically feral or semi-feral. They don't want to interact with people, so they're not a threat. They're not
Got
going
it.
to attack anyone. They're just going to
Right.
go have their own life. And she does a very responsible placement
That's
of that.
really cool. And then they kill mice and rats.
And they do that as well.
That's their
Yeah.
job. This is really interesting. So, unexplained aggression is something that absolutely needs both a vet and a behaviorist. And the sooner that you notice this behavior, the quicker you should do something about it. Otherwise, it becomes the cat's habit. Or in the case of that client of yours, you become so rattled and untrusting yourself that you can't keep the cat because you're freaked out
Or injured.
or injured or
You
your
know, I
child is
and
in jeopardy.
I always say to people, if you've been bitten by a cat, washing and the wound and waiting and watching is not sufficient. You should
That's
go
right.
seek medical attention.
Yeah. A cat
Um,
bite is really,
Very
can be
serious.
brutal, can kill you. You can get sepsis. Your whole body
Yeah.
can be
Yep.
infected. Well, all right, we're not going to go that dramatic, but
Right.
a cat with unexplained aggression, you have to find the explanation, right? I mean, you
Yes.
just have to look for it, is basically the
Absolutely.
takeaway.
And even if you can't find the explanation, you've got to work on mitigating that
Yeah,
behavior by helping the cat feel better.
exactly. Thank you, Stephen Quant. Catbehaviorhelp.com is definitely full of loving advice. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, as always, Tracy.